Hello and welcome back everyone to Pitch to Podium. This is myself, Soumil Arora here, and I'm joined by Kunal Shah with me. And we've got a very, very important topic to discuss. You see, when Formula One comes back, a lot of teams will be aiming to get a little bit of testing and a little bit of track time in to try and develop their cars and to be a bit ready, so to say, for the first Grand Prix in Austria. But there is a little bit of a catch because manufacturers with their bigger budgets, they apparently may have a better advantage to try and test before the races. Kunal, what is this all about and what advantage do the manufacturers actually have in such a situation?
Well, it's actually what we've been seeing. Kevin Magnussen has been going karting. Okay. We saw Lando Norris do a private test, in a Formula 3 car a couple of days ago. Mercedes has announced that they're doing a private test at Silverstone, in the next couple of days, over 2 days or something. Yeah, they're going to run, the car from 2 seasons ago. There are rumors that Ferrari are going to be doing a pre-season test as well. It's going to be a private test. Now, the question is, why are these teams doing these tests? And, why is it such an important topic to talk about? So the reason why they're doing the test is because anyone who works inside or on the F1 car has never been this far away from an F1 car before.
Absolutely.
We've had the longest off season in history. So it's important for teams. It is important for the mechanics, the engineers, the pit crew to get back into rhythm from an operational excellence point of view, as well as a safety point of view. So that's for people who are on the car. For the drivers who are going to be inside the car, it's about, what all the drivers have been talking about, that, shaking off the rust. They've not driven something, even half as quick as a Formula One car for almost 6 months now. So the thing is, everyone is going to try and get into something that can even remotely simulate in the real world what a Formula One car does.
No, absolutely. And of course, for all the drivers, although they may be doing a lot of sim racing back at home, there still is a major, major gap between the sim and the actual Formula One car. It just is a feeling that is completely surreal. But actually, there was a recent IndyCar race at Texas that came out, and the drivers weren't really very rusty. So maybe that just could be a thing about speedways. But actually, some sort of testing actually does help our drivers get back on the track. But Kunal, there's some major catch to this because there are only some teams that actually may be able to go testing and maybe trying to shake off the rust for all the crew and all the drivers. So what is that all about? And what sort of advantage does this give out to, say, big teams like Mercedes and Ferrari?
That's a good point, Soumil, because let's take into example a team like Mercedes, a works Formula One team, and then there's a team like Racing Point, which is a customer team. Now, the customer team takes engines on contract from the works F1 team, right? And this contract speaks about where all the engines can be used, or power units as we call them. Now, most of the time, the contract states that we will give you engines for the pre-season tests, which we've already had, the 6 days of testing. And then we will give you engines for every race of the season, right? Now, of course, which will mean that, Racing Point will have Mercedes engines from when the season starts in Austria and, a few weeks from now. But if Racing Point wishes to go and do a private test, like say Mercedes, is going to be doing so, then they need to be paying extra to get a supply of those engines and all the technicians and so on that come along with it, right? And that's where the question comes of money, because Mercedes owns the chassis as well as the power unit. They can just deploy it. Whereas Racing Point needs to be paying extra to get access to those power units. And that's the difference between the haves and the haves not in the world of Formula One, right? So the easy way to do it would also be that, Formula One could turn around and say that, in the Friday free practice of the first race in Austria, you probably get an hour more of driving, or, you do probably half a day of testing before the Friday, or even a full day of testing, just so that, teams are able to get back into shape, as are the drivers, and we can eventually make sure that the sport is safe enough to operate within the environment as well.
No, absolutely. And actually, when you come back to, say, some of the privateer teams, of course, when you look at a company like McLaren or Racing Point, they've laid off a lot of people. McLaren, in fact, laying off over 500 people as well. So that would make it just a little more tricky as well, right, for them to try and afford those engines, even if they have a private test of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very sticky situation to be in, and I'm hoping that Formula One is sitting and, understanding what is the best way to find a solution that works for pretty much everyone else. Like, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure Lando Norris paid by himself for the Formula 3 test, because, the most he could afford was get a Formula 3 car so he could at least, shake his rust off, and Lewis Hamilton probably is going to have the world championship winning Mercedes car from a couple of seasons ago. So there is a difference in the preparation as well. Okay. And hopefully there are some answers, in the weeks to follow.
Indeed. And Kunal, just to wrap it off, how much of an impact will this have, according to you? Because, of course, testing can play a major role. It can actually have an impact. And with, of course, in the later seasons, we're actually going to have testing sort of like in a progressive manner. The people who win the championship or do well, they just get limited amount of testing time and win tunnel time as well. So do you think that it'll have a significant impact on the track? And how do you expect things to play out once we get to Austria?
So I personally feel that, drivers and pit crew and teams, they're all thorough professionals. They've been doing it time and again. So I think by the time we get to the race on Sunday, they would have, reached a good amount of shaking off of the rust, and they would have reached their sort of peak as they would, right? But it is in the FP sessions. It is probably in, even Saturday's qualifying and so on. It would be interesting to see how drivers are able to sort of further this challenge and overcome it, as the longest off season in history sort of comes to a close. And I just wish that everyone gets an equal platform to sort of overcome this challenge. And that's the point we're trying to make.
Indeed, indeed. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this, Kunal. I think those points were actually very fascinating. And what's your take, guys? Do you think this actually diversification and sort of differences in testing between all these teams will have a major impact on the championship standings? Actually, on the way the teams prepare as well. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like. And of course, if you have any suggestions, any positive feedback or anything like that, please feel free and please feel very open to leave them in the comment section as well. And any potential ideas or anything that we can do, don't hesitate, in fact, I'm so sorry, to come to contact with us. We will surely entertain all the ideas, and it should be a good activity to try and build Pits to Podium up from scratch. Once again, folks, thank you so much for watching. And once again, thanks, Kunal. See you soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.